Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a genuinely fascinating piece by Maurizio Rosati about a system called SYRG. Now, what I absolutely love about this material is how it bridges two completely different worlds that honestly rarely talk to each other. On one side, you have the chaotic, highly physical operations of the real world, and on the other, the absolute bleeding edge of theoretical artificial intelligence. We're going to explore how a tool built to solve everyday corporate headaches might actually be pointing us toward a whole new mathematical foundation for AI.
So, let's dive right in. We're starting with a massive, super relatable problem highlighted in our source material, the very human issue of institutional brain drain. Think about it. Whether it's a lead engineer retiring or a top project manager jumping ship to a competitor, what happens to those decades of specialized knowledge? Yeah, it usually just walks right out the front door. Organizations bleed expertise every single day, and those standard handover documents rarely capture the full picture.
Well, to tackle this exact issue, SYRAG was originally built to safeguard and digitize two distinctly different types of information. On one hand, you've got your tacit knowledge. This is the stuff that usually just lives in people's heads, cultural practices, deeply ingrained technical know-how. And on the flip side, there's explicit knowledge, the formal manuals, the constantly evolving regulations, those documented, albeit informal, processes. SYRAG's whole initial mission: capture both the spoken rules and that unspoken experience before they vanish for good.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with preserving lost human capital, then look at the superyacht proving ground, see how this expands to compliance across all sectors, dive into the Octonionic AI breakthrough, and finally bring it all together where practical value meets the future.
Section 1. Preserving lost human capital. Making knowledge searchable and verifiable.
So, how exactly do we build a foundation for an organization that's losing its most valuable asset? Because look, the goal here isn't just to hoard a bunch of files in some messy, forgotten shared drive. It's about transforming that raw experience into something highly structured. The source outlines exactly how this preservation works. By capturing cultural practices and technical know-how right alongside digitized manuals, CRDEO's SYRAG does something really clever. It takes that fragmented, messy, human knowledge and turns it into verifiable capital. It doesn't just sit on a server, it actively cross-references all that info against complex, constantly changing regulations, meaning when an expert finally hangs up their hat, their knowledge stays behind, active, searchable, and fully compliant.
Moving on to Section 2, the superyacht's proving ground, field service for complex builds.
To really wrap our heads around how this works out in the wild, we have to look at SYRAG's ultimate stress test, superyachts. Now you might be thinking, superyachts, aren't those just luxury toys? But practically speaking, these things are massive, highly regulated engineering marvels floating on the water. They are absolute nightmares for data compliance, and they often operate miles away from a stable internet connection. To handle this, the system packages up the entire vessel dossier. We're talking all the plans, certifications, manuals, supplier records, and tags it with traceable metadata. Then, here's the kicker. It takes this entire repository completely offline. This lets crews and shipyards run verifiable data retrievals using RAG, that's Retrieval Augmented Generation, right in the middle of a sea trial or port operation. It's an offline capable repository that radically reduces operational risk in environments where you don't even have a single bar of Wi-Fi.
Section 3. Compliance across all sectors. Adapting to fragmented knowledge everywhere.
After seeing this kind of incredible success in the harsh, isolated environments of maritime engineering, the developers realized something pretty huge. Brittle procedures, fragmented knowledge, weak data tracking. These aren't just ship problems, they're universal. Whether you're managing a chaotic hospital ward or a massive industrial factory, the structural pain points are basically identical. The source notes that with just a few modest domain packs and policy templates, the SYRG platform turned out to be incredibly portable. It easily adapted its structured data approach to healthcare, industrial maintenance, hospitality, and, like we saw, maritime operations. Turns out, literally everybody needs their messy data securely organized.
So the key takeaway here is that compliance across all these sectors is achieved by design, using what they call a secure operational perimeter. They essentially wrap all tools and artifacts right inside this perimeter. And why does that matter? Well, it guarantees that every single standard operating procedure, every data set, and every published item automatically carries compliance metadata, versioned audit trails, and strict policy bindings. Every single output, from a quick internal post to a massive regulatory report, remains fully auditable and aligned with sector norms. It's just baked right into the architecture.
Which brings us to Section 4, the Octonionic AI breakthrough, a new research signal from Zenodo.
All right, now let's zoom way out to the future horizon. We're shifting gears from the practical, gritty world of compliance and superyachts to a totally wild theoretical experiment involving a brand new mathematical scaffolding for AI. Check out this recent finding published on Zenodo. It notes that a large language model built with an octonionic structure can actually organize itself into a more coherent state. For a little context here, octonions are an 8-dimensional complex number system. Imagine upgrading an AI's brain from resting on a wobbly coffee table to a perfectly balanced, ultra-stable 8-dimensional framework. What this research is hinting at is a profound shift in how AI actually structures information at its very core. You see, standard LLM models use a baseline mathematical scaffolding that can sometimes get pretty wobbly and prone to unstable signals. That instability is often exactly why AI models hallucinate or just completely lose the plot on basic facts. In contrast, this octononian structure suggests the model can self-organize into a much more coherent state, locking onto a remarkably stable signal. Now, it's absolutely crucial to neutrally note that the source explicitly states this is just an early research signal. We aren't looking at a finished commercial product yet. But the implications, they're massive. We could very soon be seeing AIs with vastly improved consistency simply because their underlying math has been fundamentally upgraded.
Finally, Section 5. Practical value meets future, staying grounded while evolving.
While the theoretical math of octonions is, let's be honest, entirely mind-bending, we really have to anchor back to how this actually impacts those real-world workflows we talked about earlier. The folks developing SYRAG aren't just tinkering in an ivory tower lab. They're actively managing critical data for hospitals and shipyards today. Their overarching philosophy is to treat these two streams, the practical, everyday application, and the high-level AI research, as one single, structured information river. The ultimate goal? Explore whether this highly structured model core can improve consistency, but do it without ever sacrificing the tangible, rock-solid reliability that their clients depend on right now. You just don't trade today's practical value for tomorrow's hype.
Looking ahead, the article lays out some super actionable next steps that show exactly how the platform plans to merge these two worlds. First, they plan to validate these Octonian-inspired approaches using models trained on specific sectors, like healthcare and maritime. They're also going to explore company-specific local fine-tuning, meaning an AI can run securely on a private server using only that organization's proprietary data. On top of that, they'll integrate hybrid models under strictly auditable conditions, and continue to beef up those offline packaging and RAG guarantees for folks working out in the field. Really, it's a brilliant roadmap for marrying bleeding-edge research with ironclad data security.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought. Are we entering an era where AI stops just performing certainty and starts actually exposing reality? Think about how tools like SYRAG, with their intense focus on verifiable, auditable data, and this potential for ultra-stable octonionic math might fundamentally change our relationship with technology. We might finally be moving away from these smooth-talking chatbots that confidently hallucinate total nonsense and moving toward AI that actually anchors us firmly to the truth. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the future of human capital and artificial intelligence.